Carol, you will know lots of people have been getting in touch with us this morning about one particular change to how we look. It's the clock.
I know. I remember that clock.
So do I.
My goodness. It's quite groovy, isn't it?
I love it. Groovy is definitely the word. I really like the clock. Thank you, Carol.
We've gone analogue because it was 40 years ago this morning that the clock looked just like that for the very first edition of Breakfast Time, as it was called then, the very first moment of breakfast television in the UK.
Yeah, that was the programme, of course, that welcomed everybody, celebrities, politicians, or just someone with a story to tell.
And on that very first edition of Breakfast Time, a special guest was the singer Leo Sayer. Have a look.
This is wonderful. This is the first time for years I've been up this time in the morning, and it's amazing. And I must congratulate you all at the way you're coping. It's absolutely fantastic. Beautiful presentation and a great-looking show.
Oh, thank you. I'm sure Frank feel the same way. Don't you?
Oh, I do. We've got some good people here, I tell you.
Oh, it's wonderful, and I think it's very nice for the British public because it's very informative and very new and very sparkling. I've seen this a lot in America, and it really works fantastically.
Can I just slip in one thing since you brought me to the conversation? One or two people have written in, and I've got a stack of things here saying they're thinking I'm smoking. Well, I'm not smoking. This is coffee.
Coffee that's
There's
going.
coffee steam coming up here. Anybody gets a cup of coffee they want.
Well, in best breakfast time tradition, there, we had a little bit of a blooper. Did you notice?
Cameo.
Yeah, we came back in vision.
No.
That's the best bit of the programme, just to keep you all awake.
We haven't got coffee percolating this morning, but we have got a special BBC Breakfast Time mug.
Yeah, mine's hidden by the controversial clock. There it is. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Just like the old days. We've got jumpers as well. And we've also got Leo Sayer again. Good morning, Leo. 40 years on. How are you?
I'm great. It's a happy anniversary to BBC Breakfast Time, all the way from Australia. Lots of love.
That's lovely to have you with us again, 4 decades later. What are your memories of coming in on that very first day?
Well, I mean, Frank and Selena were such stars. I mean, to be interviewed by Selena Scott at that time, anyway, was very special. She was the Princess Di of TV. You know, so it was quite incredible to walk into the studio. But, you know, it started a tradition that has carried on in Australia. Of course, there was breakfast programs in America, but it started a tradition that went all around the world. And like I was saying in that clip, suddenly musicians and celebrities had to get up really early in the morning to promote your material or say hello to people. So it was a big change. It was fantastic, though. I think it really worked, and it's changed television, definitely.
Is that why you're in Australia today, so you don't have to get up quite so early?
And the sun's shining outside. I mean, I've just heard the weather forecast there. I'm so sorry for you all, but it's a lovely 30 degrees today.
Oh, don't.
And we're not going to get dark. It's the evening now. Look on my analog watch. I can tell you, it's 7:30 in the evening, and it won't get dark until about 9 o'clock. So you know, it's long evenings and sunshine. I'm so sorry to say that, everybody. I do apologise.
That was Leo Sayer, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that's it. Cut.
Oh, Leo, it is so great to talk to you. What I love about your original interview is when you came into the studio and sat down, you said, "Well done, you're all coping really well." And that was obviously because...
Well, but it was like that because there were a few long faces around, because a few of the cameramen and sound guys on the way in and makeup people had all said, "God, I can't believe I've had to get up early." It was a new concept, you know. And,
Leo, it's not new anymore, but we still do that.
Nah, but it took a little while for it to bed in, put it like that. You know, it became de rigueur, the norm, very quickly. But that show was a big surprise to everybody that it actually worked so well, because I think there were people up in the head offices upstairs in the BBC back in Shepherd's Bush in those days that actually did think that it wouldn't work. And that's the word that I heard.
Wow.
Your red leather jacket that morning matched the red leather sofa.
Oh, God, I'm wearing pink today.
No, I mean, did you get advice about, you know, what you should be wearing, how you should be behaving? Because nobody quite knew what this new thing was going to be.
No, it was all new territory. I mean, I think I just bought that jacket a week before, so I thought, well, you know, let's wear it on the show. Let's see what happens. But Selena liked it, so, you know, it worked.
Well, if Selena liked it,
she said, she was feeling very dowdy compared with me, and I said, oh, come on.
You bring the colour, Leo. That's what we need. Did you think when you sat on that sofa all those years ago, did you think that in 40 years' time, on exactly the same day, you'd be talking about it again?
Well, look, I just did a tour last year all over the UK to celebrate my 50 years in the business, because it was 1972 that it all really kicked off for me. The first hits and the first songs and the first live shows and the first kind of airing of Leo Sayer. So I'm not surprised. And quite honestly, the way things are going at the moment, with people going down like flies all around my generation and my age, to be here talking to you, it's a miracle.
Oh, Leo, it is a delight to talk to you this morning. Thank you so much with your analogue watch.
A pleasure for being
here. To match our analogue clock. Thank you very much indeed, Leo Sayer. Brilliant.
We've got one too. Lots of you getting in touch this morning. Younger people struggling to work out how to tell the time on an analogue watch. Yes. So it is 7:28 and 25 seconds, and it's time to catch up with our news teams all over the UK. We'll see you in a sec.
Yeah.
Just thinking, I mean, 40 years ago today, the first edition of breakfast television in the UK, Breakfast Time. I know. Women's sport didn't feature once.
Probably wouldn't have featured, would it?
We should do. Look back and see what sport was on.
It shows how things are changing.
Yes.
And how things, are changing for the better. Like bringing back the jumpers, perhaps.
Yeah, I love the jumpers.
We've got a jumper.
Ditch the suit, bring the jumpers back.
The original clock.
Rolling back the years.
You might notice quite a few changes on this morning's programme as we reflect on that 40th anniversary.
Now, when it first came to air, it wasn't just news on the programme. We also had our very own resident fitness guru, the Green Goddess.
And on that first programme, Diana Moran, that was her real name, she was at Waterloo Station, surprising commuters, getting them up on their feet to do a few aerobics. And this morning, we've got her back at Waterloo with Jane McCubbin. Good morning, Jane. You've got your crowds. Have you got the Green Goddess yet?
I'll do the introductions in a moment, thank you. She is here, she is amongst us, the legend who is. 40 years ago, she threw out an appeal. She said to commuters here in London, put down your briefcases, put down your pipes, put down your umbrellas, and let's get Britain fit. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We all remember, don't we, the Green Goddess? These gentlemen, John and John, you are celebrating your own 40th anniversary. You joined the Marines when you were 16-year-old on this very day, and they told me they worked out to the Green Goddess's training. I don't know if that's true. Let's start a round of applause, because the woman of the moment is here. Oh, it's so nice to meet you.
Oh,
Diana Moran. It was a TV revolution. Did it feel like that?
No, it didn't actually feel like it. It felt extremely cold, as it is again today, of course. Yes. Oh.
I read a story which I absolutely loved, and it was about how you became known as the Green Goddess. I read that you went into the TV studio with a yellow jumpsuit on.
My favourite colour.
And they said, no, not yellow, because
I looked like a large prancing canary.
So you went back in a coffee-coloured catsuit, and they said...
Elegant. So elegant. And they said, you can't wear that again. You look totally naked.
So you chose your least favourite colour, which was green.
Oh, it was a terrible green as far as I was concerned, but it was telegenic, and that was it.
A legend was born.
And yes.
And it was kind of, I mean, America had Jane Fonda.
Surely.
We had you.
Well, we were doing the same sort of thing at the same time, exercising to music. Beforehand, women in particular hadn't gone into gyms. Gyms were for the chaps, the rugby, the football players, smelly places, boxers and all that sort of thing. And suddenly we brought it up, we put some music to it, which appealed to the women, and we then had exercise to music and aerobics, and all that stuff was born.
It was a revolution, and you made it happen on this very spot.
Here. Yes.
Now, listen, how easy or not? Was it to get people involved back then? Because I tell you what, I've struggled getting people over this morning.
They were literally coming off the trains. There weren't so many gates as there are now to come through security. And then they would stop. They had their bowler hats, their umbrellas, and they think, what on earth is going on our station this morning?
What am I seeing?
And they joined in.
It
was extraordinary. It was lovely.
We played the film this morning, and there is a moment in the middle with a man with an orange jumper who's really going for it, and his midriff is out unintentionally. I mean, you must have had some adventures over the years.
Oh, I've had so many adventures. I've worked out with the Army, the Navy, the Air Force. I've worked out with in factories who made lingerie. If they were making bras, I did chest exercises. If they were making knickers, I did bottom exercises. Oh, I've been all sorts of places.
And you are going to treat us today to another 40th anniversary.
Are you going to work out?
I'm going to work out.
Good,
our job is to try and get people to stop. Not an easy feat. 40 years ago, everybody, I think, had a bit more time to play with.
Yes.
People are in a rush today, but we're going to do it, aren't we?
We are.
We're going to do it. So join us again in about an hour's time.
Okay.
For a workout like no other. See you then. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Jane, thank you so much, and please say thank you to Diana Moran, the legendary goddess herself.
Legend.
We are so
Total
impressed.
Legend.
We are honoured to have her on our programme. Thank you. Everybody, if you're going through Waterloo Station, stop.
You can.
Do some exercise.
Jane's recruiting. It's a good job it's not a rail strike today. She'd have nobody at all. She's got no excuses because it's busy. It's 7:51. Lots more 40th anniversary stuff to come this morning. We've got some very special guests who are going to be here to help us celebrate.
Yes.
Who have we got?
Now, this is our makeup room. We don't normally show behind the scenes, do we? But here we are. This is live in the BBC Breakfast makeup room. Debbie Ricks was the show's very first newsreader. She's going to be here, along with Russell Grant, who was at the time Breakfast Times astrologer.
Yeah, we had an astrology slot every morning.
I'm not sure Debbie can hear us, but morning.
Looking forward to chatting with both of them. You can follow all our special anniversary coverage this morning online on the BBC News website, on the app. You can check on their phone, some wonderful pictures there. And some
I'm really not sure about that picture at all.
The best thing, have you seen, there's a load of bloopers, like the things that have gone wrong.
I bet there's a few of them.
Yeah, it goes on for about 40 years.
Plenty to choose from.
Jeremy Paxman. They were all here, weren't they? All those presenters over the year. And somebody else who was here almost at the beginning, but back in 1983, behind the scenes then, in front of the camera this morning, Carol. Hello. Good morning. Don't worry, you haven't missed 40 years and something's gone wrong. We're celebrating 40 years today since the first edition of Breakfast, today with Sally Nugent and John Kay.
Yes, the 17th of January 1983 saw the very first breakfast time programme, marking the arrival of breakfast television on our screens.
And one of those people still involved in the programme today, who was involved back in 1983 behind the scenes, Carol!
I have to say I was two.
Yeah, of course. Work experience.
It certainly was. But I joined when I was a student in the summer of 1983. I was a production secretary, and it was so exciting because I always wanted to work for the BBC, and I was here. Or I was in Lime Grove in London, but I was in the studio. All my dreams were coming true.
When you say you're a production secretary, what was that? What does that mean? What did you actually do?
Well, I used to type scripts, and we used to use carbon paper. Do you remember that? It was like tissue paper. You'd have 6 pieces in there. If you made a mistake, you had your rubber trying to get it out. The paper would be going up and down.
You made mistakes?
All the time, John, all the time.
Never.
But the other thing, we used to phone some of the presenters to wake them up, so they got an alarm call from us. And I remember one time phoning Frank Boff, and the phone was answered really quickly, and it wasn't Frank, it was his son. And he said, "Oh, please call back, Dad will kill me. I've been at a party. I should have been there at midnight." So I did, and Frank was none the wiser. But, you know, we used to book taxis. We did everything. It was just brilliant. And autocue. You'll be glad that I'm not doing Erotica today.
Oh, I don't know. That could be quite fun, couldn't it? A bit of jeopardy in the programme. It's so lovely to have you here on this special birthday. And you're going to be doing the weather with Francis, the original weatherman.
Yes.
Live, shortly.
Super excited.
OK, that'd be brilliant. Thank you.
Well, also, later in the programme, we will be joined by some other very special guests. They'll be here on the sofa helping us celebrate.
There's Francis, the weatherman, with his weather jumper on. Also next to him, Debbie Ricks, who was the show's very first newsreader. And there's Russell Grant, Breakfast Time's astrologer. They're having a lovely catch-up, aren't they, over a cup of tea?
They're going to come and join us on our sofa in just a minute. I can't wait for that. I'm hoping Russell will tell us what's going to happen this year.
Yeah.
Do you think he will?
That'd be useful. That would be useful.
I'd like to know.
What do you remember about that first? Because we were teenagers. What do you remember?
I think was I a teenager? Or maybe only just getting ready for school. It was really cold, and I remember coming down early, putting the TV on, and thinking it was just the strangest thing ever.
Because there'd never been telly before lunchtime at that time.
Makes us sound so old.
3 channels, nothing on till lunchtime. Do you want to see something really embarrassing? I'm
always
kind of embarrassed to share this.
No, you're not. You're not embarrassed at all. You love it.
This is the secret diary of Jonathan Kay, aged 13 3/4. The actual diary. I found this at my dad's house a few weeks ago. And I didn't keep it for very long, but on the 17th of January, 1983, I actually wrote in it, look, Monday, today I woke up at 6 a.m. to watch the most publicised breakfast TV. And I talk about how weird it was to be eating cornflakes, watching it.
So that was written exactly 40 years ago today?
40 years ago today.
Now, I notice it's a 5-year diary, but there's only about 4 entries in it.
Yeah, and you're not reading any of the others. That's the only one that's going public. But I thought I'd use that as a way of catching up with some of the other people who were involved in that very first team, sitting on the very first sofa. Phil Collins was number 1. We had pound notes, not pound coins. And 13-year-old me crept downstairs.
This is BBC One.
To watch a bit of TV history.
Breakfast Time.
It's 6:30, Monday, January the 17th, 1983. You're watching the first edition of BBC Television's Breakfast Time, Britain's first ever regular early morning television programme.
Letters and telegrams have been pouring into our offices here, wishing us luck with Breakfast Time.
And just like Adrian Mole, who was also 13 at the time, I wrote about it in my diary.
Our first look at Monday's main stories.
Dear Diary, today I woke up at 6 a.m. to watch the most publicised and now criticised breakfast TV. It was good, but all news!
It's just coming up to 6:45.
Imagine eating cornflakes while watching Mr. Boff.
Looking back now, it wasn't all news.
Cardboard cutter. The Harry Seeker that was.
The content was varied, to put it mildly.
You've turned up looking absolutely gorgeous. Bend like this.
A mix unlike anything we'd seen on TV before.
Stretch out, expanding the lungs.
First time for years I've been up this time in the morning.
3 planets moving from the sign of Sagittarius, which
Look out.
means you're going...
And all presented from a red sofa. That first programme was produced not in Salford, where we make breakfast today, but at Lime Grove in West London, which was also home to Grandstand, Panorama and even Doctor Who.
Somebody's nicked the ruddy plaque. It's at least the last remnant of Breakfast Time and the BBC.
40 years after he presented the very first show, Nick Ross has brought me back.
Good morning to you. We really have been astonished at the goodwill and the good wishes we've received.
That's where the Breakfast Time studio was. As I recall, the first floor, I can't remember. You had to go upstairs. It was such a warren, I can't even remember. And then you suddenly went into this magical space.
When you were sitting there on the sofa, did you get a sense of who was watching, how many people were watching?
We didn't know if anyone was watching, John. I mean, you know, and of course it was a fantastic hit right from the very start.
How confident are you that you are going to be Prime Minister by the end of this year?
Well, I think we've got every chance of doing it. Of course, we've got a lot of work to do.
And you weren't wearing a tie.
Nobody mentioned it. It didn't matter because the news itself was good enough or the stories were so powerful. It doesn't matter whether you're wearing a tie or not. That's absolutely irrelevant.
So you reckon I should be taking my tie off? Charlie should be taking his tie off?
Absolutely.
Oh, interesting. I'll tell the boss. I'm not sure what he'll have to say.
I'm absolutely delighted that you've still got a red sofa. I mean, it's not the original, but at least you've still got the red sofa.
But where is the original? What happened to that red leather sofa? It must be somewhere.
Well, I suspect it's junked. It's pretty ancient. I don't think it survived.
I think I might know somebody who can tell us. One of the young production secretaries who was working on the programme in those early days is still working on Breakfast today, and she knows everything.
Oh my goodness, it was so exciting because I had always wanted to work for the BBC, and here I was on Breakfast Time. You know, it was revolutionary, it was new.
Well, let me put a summary of all that so you can read at your leisure. Up the top, it's horrible. In the West, it's dull. In the East, it's quite nice.
These days, in the gallery, there's loads of computers, lots of stuff is automated. But when you were doing the job, you were doing the timings literally with stopwatches in your hand.
That's right, there were two. And you're looking at these watches and you'll have the director saying, how long left in this item? How long left in the programme? You're like, ah!
How stressful was that? I can't imagine.
It was, but it focused you. And when you brought the programme out on time at the end, it's like, yes!
And when you didn't?
It was, oh no!
Francis, you haven't mentioned Northern Ireland.
Oh, sorry.
Very cross.
Rightly so. I am sorry. I do apologise.
Do you have any idea what happened to that original red leather sofa? I'm trying to find it.
Do you know, I think some of it was thrown away, but I think some of it may have been auctioned for children in need. But as for the rest, I don't know.
It must be somewhere. It must be somewhere. You haven't got it.
No, I don't.
So I did what would have seemed unthinkable back in 1983. I put an appeal on social media.
I think it's a cracker.
One of our early presenters, Fern Britton, replied, saying she remembered the sofa, that the leather was embarrassingly squeaky, but she didn't know where it was. Jeremy Bowen also reminisced about the sofa he sat on 20 years ago, but he didn't know where to find the original. One viewer could tell me the make and model, but then the trail went cold, until a tip-off.
John, I think Debbie Greenwood actually had the red sofa.
Debbie Greenwood?
More the great classical roles, or do you enjoy...
Debbie Greenwood, the former Miss United Kingdom who presented the programme in the mid-1980s.
Hello.
Debbie Greenwood. I have reason to believe you may be in possession of the original BBC Breakfast Time red leather sofa.
Guilty as charged, I'm afraid.
You have got it?
I do have a bit of it, yeah.
Can we see
Small
it?
bit of it. Yeah, come in.
Yes.
I got it because it was a leaving present from the BBC. And you know, they've always been a bit mean.
There it is.
What do you think?
It's small, but we've got it.
We've got it, haven't we? Do you want to try it out?
I'd love to.
Have a seat.
Sitting on the original BBC breakfast television sofa. Oh. It's much softer than the one we have today.
It's very soft and it's a good job you're not wearing leather trousers because it has a tendency to make some quite funny noises when you're wearing leather trousers.
I don't intend to wear leather trousers. Why did you want this as a leaving present?
I didn't. I would rather have had a diamond ring, but that's what they gave me.
But what does it mean to you now?
It means a lot to me because heads of state, film stars, everybody's been on there. Because at that time, and I'm sure still the case now, it was a go-to. Well, we are keeping strange company in a way, but more about that later. I want to just gag him.
Please tell me that sometimes you come and sit on the original sofa and watch BBC Breakfast Today.
Of course I do. Of course I do.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Would you ever get rid of it?
No. No, 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 no. Never, ever, ever, ever.
So, 40 years after the programme launched...
Oh, my giddy aunt!
And we first watched TV in the morning. The sofa that set the tone for breakfast. We found it.
You found it?
We found it, yeah.
Detective John, well done.
Oh, thank goodness we found it. I love the fact that Debbie Greenwood is sitting on it this morning watching
Debbie.
this programme. Debbie is now a wedding celebrant in London, but she is celebrating this programme today. Cheers, Debbie, with a breakfast time cup. Lovely to see you and lovely to meet you.
We are joined now on our sofa by two very special guests who can give us a unique insight into what breakfast TV was like 40 years ago on that other sofa.
Yes.
Debbie Ricks, Breakfast Time's first newsreader. Russell Grant, the show's astrologer. Morning.
Very good morning to you.
Thank you so much for coming in. Debbie, what do you think of our sofa compared to your sofa?
It's just as uncomfortable, really.
It's dreadful, isn't it?
Really.
Tell everyone at home.
There is
dreadful.
something about studio set designers that they design it to look groovy, but nobody ever thinks about who's got... You must spend half your life sitting on this thing.
Yeah.
Do you have a back problem?
Always.
Well, I mean,
I'm not surprised.
The one we tried in Debbie's house was very, very squishy.
Very
this one is
squishy.
the opposite problem.
Yes,
It's like a plank.
Well, it's more like Velcro. It sticks you to it. So that no one is going to end up on the floor like we used to with that leather thing.
Did you slide off it?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, many times. But
Did
on the
you?
very first show, a lovely Harry Seacombe, who I was doing some stars for, I came in, saw the back of his head 1 minute, the next minute he disappeared. Where's he gone? He had slid off the sofa and people were trying to haul Harry up back into his place. Lovely man.
Extra problem for you is that you are extra slippery because of your jumper collection.
Well, there's a story about that.
Sure.
I mean, I have got the only one that's left, which was sent to me by Karen Wright, because she knows that I support Middlesex County Cricket Club, so she did that. I kept it because it's a bit blingy, and since Strictly, I've gone very blingy. And I had over 100 of them. People used to send them in. And that very first show, I was actually dapper in a waistcoat.
Yes.
Do you remember?
Right, yes.
And our wonderful, wonderful editor, Ron Neal, the sweetest, kindest man, walked in, threw that mohair jumper at me and said, "Put that on. You're now like entertainment." I went, "I'm in news and current affairs." Just wear it. And that was that.
And you didn't argue, did you?
They came. No, they just came. But I gave them in the end.
That's a nice one.
This one.
Oh, that's the one. That was the one that was hurled at me and said, "Put it on."
Before he slipped.
Yeah, that was before the Harry. And that's why I had to wear it, because I was now light entertainment. I couldn't be serious anymore.
And did it make a difference, Russell? Did you feel a bit more like
well,
entertainment
I mean,
with that?
image is everything, isn't it? But my stars were still dead serious. And in fact, Harry became a very close friend after that. And I went to see him in Pickwick at the Manchester Opera House.
No wonder, because you'd saved him from the slippery sofa.
I know, from the slippery slope.
Yeah.
Debbie, what do you remember about that job you had? Because you were very much news, weren't you?
I
No
was
jumpers
news,
for
yeah.
you.
No jumpers for me, no. In fact, I did the first show wearing... We had no dress designers or anything in those days.
That
we were all
hasn't
left to our own.
changed. No, we still don't.
Well, you're looking very elegant today, I have to say. So
Thanks,
I think we girls can choose our own clothes. But I had this weird outfit, which I think I got in a sale, you know, and it was like cream with skirt and a cream top. And people kept saying, "She looks like a bride." And it was... I realised I was wearing completely the wrong thing. And yes, I mean, I'd been a researcher before that. And there I am.
As if by magic.
A tiny, frightened rabbit of a person staring into space.
Do not look frightened.
Well, it is a miracle that I didn't. I think it must have been the kind of confidence of youth or something, because I'm sure I didn't know what the hell I was doing, really. I had absolutely no training. I literally got plucked out of researcher. I applied for a job as a reporter, and Ron Neal rang me one day and said, "I'd like you to come and audition as a newsreader." And I sort of literally almost said, "I don't want to be a newsreader." But I said, "Oh, all right then." So I bibbled along, did an audition, came home and thought, "I don't think I was very good." And I think I would quite like to be a newsreader, actually. And my boyfriend, now my husband, was a producer at the time. And he said, "Well, sit on the sofa and I'll, you know," he wrote some stuff and I practised to him. And he was going, "No, more emphasis on that word, not this word." And then I rang them up and said, "Can I have another go?" And they said, "Go on then." And then I got the job. There were about 4,000 people applying for it, which I didn't know at the time, and I had no idea.
That's because Ron, you see, is behind every story. Have you noticed?
Yeah. I've
Wonderful
noticed.
Ron Neal. And so we were shapeshifters to him. I suddenly went from news and current affairs to light entertainment. Debbie went from researcher to news.
Well, I think he
so
always...
we all moved around, which is wonderful.
He employed me, he said, because... Well, partly, obviously, I suppose, the serious side was he liked the voice, but I think also because I was Scottish. And I told him that my grandfather was from Peterhead, and he said, Peterhead, as they say, and he'd say, "Right, we're having her." You know, it's the sort of Scottish cabal, really.
We're going to hear from Ron Neal, the man, the
Oh.
first
Wonderful
boss of
man.
Breakfast Time, a little bit
Wonderful
later
man.
in the programme. And, of course, as far as the astrology was concerned, that was controversial, wasn't it? Some people said this should not be on television, certainly not on a news programme.
Fabulously controversial.
Brilliant.
It was Alistair Milne, the man man at the top at the time.
Another
He
Scot.
said, if you have an astrology slot, there needs to be a God slot too. And Ron basically stuck by me and said, we need astrology, because he had this whole idea. The whole project really was a Daily Mirror or Daily Express of the morning. And now I write stars for them both. So thanks to Ron, I now do both the Express and the Mirror. Some things never change. Here's to you, Ron. We love you.
I bet you he's watching. Stay with us, because we've got lots more to talk about on the programme. Debbie and Russell, of course, were on screen, but there are lots of brilliant people who've worked on this programme behind the cameras who are absolutely crucial to those 40 years.
Yes, some have moved on, but others have been with us from the very start. This is Bernie Wingfield. Morning, Bernie. I know he won't like this. One of our technical operators who worked on our very first show in London in the sets and props department and is still working on the programme today. He's taken the day off.
Because he wants to watch, not work on it, I suspect. Thank you, Bernie, for everything you've done over 40 years. Ironically, for a sound man, he didn't want to say anything in public. But I know what you're thinking, Bernie.
Of course, it wasn't just news on that very first programme, as we've been hearing. The show also had its resident fitness guru, the Green Goddess.
Real name, Diana Moran. And that morning she was at Waterloo Station getting all the commuters with their brollies to do an aerobics routine. And guess what?
Yes, guess what? We have sent Jane McCubbin back there with the Green Goddess herself. Morning, both.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. And the legend that is the Green Goddess is in the house. Round of applause. You remember that moment well?
I certainly remember 40 years ago on this spot. And it was even more cold than this. And I was in a green leotard and tights.
And you still look just as fantastic.
You're very kind.
You started that morning with a few words, which were?
I said, come on, Britain, get up, wake up, and get fit.
Yes.
And that's what we're going to do this morning.
That is what we're going to do this morning.
Yes.
Before we show you that moment from way back when, before we show you, I just want to chat to some of the people here. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for stopping, commuters. You're all wonderful. Marjorie, you remember, don't you? You take me back. 1983.
Oh my goodness, long time. Early mornings, getting ready for work and thinking, I must do that. I must get time to do that, and then shooting off and not quite managing. I'll do it next time.
The will was there, but really no. Simon, let me bring Simon and Eric over. Come on over, guys. John, you remember too. Come on. Wasn't Diana a vision?
Wasn't she? She still is.
She still is a vision.
Yes.
She still is a vision. You're absolutely right.
Awesome. Yeah, I can remember, first of all, I remember the logo, which I think you've got there.
Yep.
That seemed really modern at the time. And the other thing I remember is everyone was so casually dressed. And I thought that was a weird thing. But of course, when we were told we were going to see the Green Goddess, I was thinking, because I'm colourblind, I didn't know she was actually green, but I could certainly see why she was and still is a goddess. Fantastic.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You remember John, don't you?
I do.
Hey?
It was very early in the morning for a teenage boy, and I had to take a double take. I thought it might be my mum. And she was a beautiful lady, so full credit to you.
Shall we go back? Let's go back, shall we? Have a look at this. 40 years ago, today, from this very spot. Take a look.
It's cold. It's dark. It's a bit miserable. But come on, Britain. Wake up. Shape up. And stretch up. Let's get Britain fit. Take your shoes off. The gentlemen, under your coats. Make yourselves feel comfortable. Put your papers down and your pipes and your umbrellas. And let's all of us get fit. Britain is going to show a leg and stretch this morning. Stretch out, expanding the lungs, and then down we go again. And up, and stretch. Any of the British Rail like to come and join us as well? Stretch in the morning? Anyhow, let's put that to music, because Keep Fit should be fun. Up and stretch. Out. Down again. Right down. Stretch. Up. out. Now, sir, right down this time. Well done. And stretch. I call this the monkey. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Anybody else like to join us? Come on in and join us. Anybody over here? Come on, sir, come and join us. You young man.
Oh, it's got the music, okay. Not yet.
Well, we've hustled up a crowd. Thank you, crowd, for stopping. Look at them. Come on over. Don't be shy, people. Come on over. I think we're ready. Commuters, are we ready? Yeah! Diana, are we ready?
Oh, I'm ready. Are you ready? Good.
Take it away, Green Goddess.
Oh, I think let's, first of all, get rid of the cares of the world. Let's have some music. So, feet a little bit apart and lift the shoulders. Lift, lift. That's it. Good, good. And roll the shoulders. Really work your back and your chest. Oh, that's really good. And stretch, stretch. That's it. Good. That's it. Wake up the body. Let's get Britain fit. And to the sides. Over you go. Excellent. And a little bit further down. Good. Good. Up again. Over to the sides. And up to the top again. That's a lovely workout. Now, what I want you to do is feet a little bit apart. I want you to do the monkey stretch. So down you go, and up you go, and stretch. Let's do one more. Down you go, up you go, and stretch. And another one. Down you go, up you come, and stretch. Are you feeling fit?
Yes. Absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
Diana Moran, you were a legend then, and you are still a legend today.
Oh, you're very, very sweet.
You have transformed the face, not just of breakfast television, but of Keep Fit across the nation.
Well, the thing is to keep active through your life. Keep active, keep moving. Into older age, you're never too old, 83, to keep yourselves fit.
Round of applause. Round of applause. It's been so lovely having you with us this morning. Thank you so much.
I love being here.
It's been brilliant.
Thank you.
Back to you guys. Thank you so much, Diana Moran. Woo!
Tell you what.
Absolutely great.
Icon. Whatever Diana is on, I'll have it.
We'll
Because
all
she
have
is
some.
incredible. Keep moving, that's what she says.
Love it, love it. There's more as well, more nostalgia, because 40 years ago today, the weather looked very different. Carol's here this morning, and she's got a bit of a retro forecast. Good morning, loving the jumper.
Good morning. I know, check the jumper, but check out Mr. Francis Wilson.
Yay!
Yay! Original weatherman on breakfast time. Francis, we're wearing these jumpers for a reason. Viewers used to send them to you, didn't they?
Yeah, well, we had a kind of a soft, friendly image, and so we got viewers to have a competition who could best knit a jumper, and that was the winner you're wearing.
It's very nice.
Yeah, and we had a stack of them, and this is another one.
Yours is very nice too, nice and weathery. But what was it like being on the programme day one? A whole new regime, if you like. What was it? Were you nervous?
Well, yeah. I mean, we were trying to be relaxed and cosy with the sofa, and you've heard Debbie and Russell sort of like bookends talking as friends, and they had the time of their lives, as in fact we all did in the end. But to begin with, the weather was a little bit different because we were trying to blaze a trail, and first of all we needed pictures to be in the studio, so real pictures, not the colour separation overlay that most people do, where it's a blank wall, but real pictures. So a guest could come across from the sofa and just muck about with the weather because it's really here. You can see it and they'll talk
Gosh,
about
Francis, thank goodness they don't do that now. That's wrong.
it. Well, yeah, Pamela Stevenson really kind of got at me, and Lenny Henry, of course, and they all made comedians make a joke of it, which is, you know, it's quite fun.
Well, let me run the graphics. If I get out of the way and you can talk us through them.
Well, the thing is that we went in for movies because it's telly, so we needed to begin with what's been happening to the weather, and we did that from Meteosat launched into space, and it was a weather satellite sending us images all the time. So we stacked the images up and flicked through them, and it was the first go at a sort of a movie, and that set up what had been happening. And then we needed to get into the forecast, which was done on a paint box. This is a paint box chart. These are the kind of significant areas, and the paint box would have the advantage of being done very quickly. You know how we used to stick magnetic symbols on magnetic boards, but now a graphics artist could just take a symbol and stick it anywhere very quickly and do lots of these charts. So the charts were for, say, midday, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, something like that. But, well, for today, what would happen was, we can't see it on this particular stack, but we've got, this is the weather area. So the cold Arctic air that's coming down here is unstable because the water here, which doesn't change much in temperature, is about 6 or 7. So the white thermals are bubbling up all the time, and that produces snow clouds which come all the way down to here because it's so cold, the air. Here in Manchester, Liverpool, and going down towards Birmingham, there are frequent snow showers, hail, sleet, and so on. 1 or 2 will get to Birmingham, but most of them are in the Cheshire Gap between the hills of Wales and over here in Manchester. And then there's some remnants, some fluffy bits get down to London, and that's about it. So most people will actually have a very bright, sunny day.
And I love the way that you said fluffy bits there, because it actually ties in with this jumper.
Yeah, that was a nice sort of signature at the bottom.
So how different it is now, because now we have fly-through graphics, we have 3D graphics.
It's come a long way.
It has come a long way. Yeah. And you, tell us a bit about how you used to get your information, Francis.
Well, 3 o'clock in the morning is very difficult, and that was the time to get up. But I had to be on the roof at Imperial College at 4 o'clock in the morning. So the thermal infrared images that were coming down from the satellite would be stacked up, and I'd take them away on a tape, and then we'd show them as a movie. So there was that to do. But then after that, the forecast, the products come from the Met Office, and it usually came as a series of advanced-looking charts that where all the weather elements were in time. So then I had to draw that out in pencil for the graphics artists so that they knew where to put the weather and what weather we were talking about.
Gosh,
give them a stack
so
of paper.
different.
And this was all happening when it was dark outside and cold. You used to run up a fire escape on the outside of the building to avoid the crowd inside and get all the charts to the graphics people.
Francis.
And also the videotape had to be updated through the programme because it goes on for a long time, the programme.
And I hate to interrupt you, we're just running out of time, but you are an inspiration. I think another big round of applause for Mr. Francis Wilson.
Well, it's just doing my job. That was all.
Oh, thank you
so
very
much, both of you. Don't go anywhere. We need you on the sofa in just a moment.
You're back doing the timings again, aren't you? You're back with your stopwatches. Carol, thank you very much indeed. 40 years on, the weather still pants, basically, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
The weather itself, not the weather forecasting, yeah.
Now, when the programme first started, the idea of morning television was really controversial. TV was seen as something you watched in the evening.
Yeah, but our media and arts correspondent David Sillito has been taking a look at the battle to get breakfast telly on air first.
Television on in the morning? That's disgusting.
It was an adventure in television. It was doing something absolutely new.
6:30, Monday, January the 17th, 1983.
Gosh, it was frightening. The very first edition, the first programme. Quite a few minutes before.
Meet Ronan Keith, editor and director of Day One of BBC Breakfast Time. And this was more than just a new programme, it was a new idea.
We've only been going for about a minute.
People were doubtful, weren't they, about breakfast television at the time. People said, television on in the morning? That's disgusting. Disgusting idea. What's happening in this country? People even use the word immoral. Some people say immoral that you would have the television on in the morning. We're far too busy getting ready for the working day ahead. We listen to the wireless in the morning.
scattered showers, chiefly in the north and east. Rather windy.
Indeed, the BBC's first experiment with breakfast television had been to simply stick some cameras into a radio studio.
It's 7 o'clock on Monday, the 1st of December. This is Radio Vision. And
It wasn't the TV gold they were hoping for.
The Director of Education, Ronald MacDonald, knows it won't be an easy job.
It will require, in the limited time available to the end of this financial year.
However, everything changed when a certain rival broadcaster made an announcement.
One bright day, ITV announced it was going to do breakfast television, and that day onwards, the BBC was going to do it, and boy, it had to be on the air first, they said. So that was how we started.
And just look at the coverage this race generated in the papers. And even 40 years on, some of the stars of TVAM's roster of presenters, the famous five, haven't entirely forgiven the BBC for sneaking in ahead of them.
As you know, the BBC went on, in fact, before we did, so there was a certain amount of being a bit cross about it. But at the same time, we'd seen what the BBC were doing, and the people that put together what we did on TVAM was quite different. So it was a challenge.
A challenge TVAM met with a certain degree of serious suited formality.
Hello, good morning if you've just joined us. It's just after 6 on Tuesday, the 1st of February.
We're going to bring order to the weather today, David. Thank you very much indeed.
It was a tense, competitive atmosphere, and the BBC was a bit of an underdog, but it had a secret weapon. And for an organisation that is very jacket and tie, it can be perhaps best summed up in one word: jumpers.
Now, as you can see, our home is very, very relaxed and informal, and we really do think that that is the right setting from which to bring you interviews with people and personalities who are making the day's news.
Jumpers. Yes. I'm not sure that we said to Frank, wear a jumper. I think Frank just decided to put on a jumper.
I'm sure there was disapproval.
Oh, I'm sure there was, because people have an expectation. You know, this is a news programme, it's the BBC, therefore it will be formal, there'll be ties and jackets and all of that, and it'll be behind a desk.
Fade away into nothing.
Yes, no desk, a sofa that Keith bought from Harrods, all part of his plan.
So what feel were you trying to create?
It needed to be very friendly, very cosy.
Now, who did everyone think was going to win, BBC or ITV, when it came to ratings?
The BBC was not expected to win this battle, and it won hands down.
One of the largest bottles of champagne in the world.
And at the end of the first programme, your feelings?
Relief. The first programme ended with champagne being opened.
You've upstayed.
Oh my giddy aunt!
You'll never work again.
So, explosive champagne at the BBC. And at TVAM, there were a few dramas. The format just wasn't a hit with viewers, but the people who paid the price were the two female presenters.
Oh my gosh, it was, what is it the Chinese used to say? We lived in interesting times.
Have you ever told the full story?
No, I haven't, and neither has Anna, because we were the two, if you like, sacrificial lambs when TVAM went completely off the rails. But it was also very exciting, of course it was. Nobody had done breakfast television before.
Meanwhile, for Ron and Keith on this look back at what they created, is there something of their programme in today's breakfast?
No desks, a relaxed chat between presenters. Yeah, there's still quite a bit of that there. And the weather's done brilliantly, of course, and so are other things. So although it's a much more newsy programme now, it still has that feeling of, good morning, you're welcome, come in and we'll hope give you a decent start to the day.
Tell me about the cake.
So, much has changed, but the sofas, friendly informality, the formula was there on day one.
You've been watching the first edition of BBC Television's Breakfast Time.
David Sillito, BBC News.
40 years on. Look who's here! Good morning, everybody. Naga and Charlie are here.
This is weird, isn't it? All four of us on the sofa together.
I know. Is that allowed? It is now.
It's like some Doctor Who thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's quite nice, yeah.
And you guys from the original programme all still here. It's great to have...
Amazingly.
Yeah. I don't mean still here. I mean still here with us on the programme.
Yeah.
40 years, hey? I mean, well, I guess when you watch back that first edition, how has the programme changed or not changed, Debbie?
Careful what you say now.
I'm terrified now, don't ask me. Well, I think, you know, you have been encouraged to become more focused in your... It's more newsy and current affairs-y, isn't it? I mean, there's no doubt about it, because there's no Green Goddess, there's no Francis with his completely non-existent weather maps. That, you know, basically it's raining.
Well, we started, there was not many people, but if we got a big audience, and when you get a big audience, you change your mind. Oh, we're appealing to so many people, we better smarten ourselves up.
Yes.
And so we went from jumpers to suits.
Yes, I think, but you know, it's essentially doing the same job, isn't it? It's telling people the agenda, setting the news agenda for the day, and that's what breakfast television is about, really, isn't it?
And how important is it, or was it then, do you think, that everybody felt, I don't know, like they could put their TV on and it was like their extended family?
Well, I think that was a part of it, and I think the jumpers all helped, you know, the no suits and the sofa.
And there weren't that many channels, and there was no social media.
Yes. Yeah.
So we became, well, we had such loyal fans out there. I mean, I used to get about 1,000 letters every week, because we did a Starlets of the Day where I used to read out people's birthdays and a horoscope. And we got, I mean, there was that many people because that was the only way they could contact us. And that was through actually writing a letter or sending a postcard.
Talking to the jumpers, I don't know how you did it because I've only had this one on for about 10 minutes and I'm melted. It's boiling hot.
So, what are your first memories of breakfast telly, you two?
Oh, I can't. To be honest, it was a bit of a blur time for me because I was at college then.
Okay.
Frankly, it came and went and I didn't know. If I'm absolutely honest, the launch of BBC Breakfast, because I was like, I was 20 years old.
You were
so
asleep.
I wasn't up much in the morning, is the honest truth.
No.
I think I was never organised enough to even have the telly on. I'd just be rushing to school.
Really?
Late.
Running with your satchel.
My little trumpet and whatever,
a lot of interest in the other side also being on at the same time, and so there's a rivalry. So people would always take an interest in that and who's left what and who's...
Oh, that's all changed, Francis. That's all completely
oh
changed.
My goodness.
Is there another side?
They're all watching you.
And it's still the same, isn't it? Also, the thing that fascinates me is, you know, we're connected to the internet. We have people chatting in our ears all the time. We have everything at our fingertips. But it was more basic for you in those days. How did you get the news? If you had breaking news, what happened?
That I have got two little stories which I will try and truncate because otherwise I'll be here for half an hour. I mean, as you know, reading Autocue as a newsreader is actually quite dull. You know, you basically chunter away, do your thing, and then you get off. But when the I can't say this, but I must say this politely. But when it all goes wrong,
yes,
that's when you earn your money. And we did have two stories. We had the death of Indira Gandhi, and we had the Brighton bomb. And the Brighton bomb, we broke the news of the Brighton bomb, and I had somebody in my news editor in my ear. We had no scripts, nothing. We just had footage of people like Norman Tebbit being brought out of the wreckage, and my editor, who was another Scotsman, swearing and shouting. I won't say what he said, but you know, then you have to translate it into something like a newsreader, you know?
Yes.
So that was good. We got a commendation from Alistair Milne for that. And then 2 weeks later, virtually, Indira Gandhi died, and the stringer we usually used was Up Country. We had an unknown stringer. The same Scottish news editor went to the satellite feed to wait for the news to come in and forgot that he had a newsreader sitting in the booth waiting to speak, and there was nothing happening. I was literally sitting there with no script, nothing. I'm pressing my little button under the desk.
That's like a stress stream.
Waiting for somebody, and eventually somebody said to me, "Junk everything, move to Poland." And it was like, OK, as you can appreciate, we're having some terrible troubles trying to get
You know who was doing the Autocue in those early days? Carol!
Yeah, where were you, Carol? You really let me down that day.
Autocue? Well, why didn't we know this?
No.
Oh, you did? I was obviously not on it.
Guys, we have to junk everything. We're not going to Poland. We're going to cake.
Cake?
Oh,
We've got cake.
Can I introduce Tracy, our brilliant floor manager, bringing in... Morning, Trace. looks after us every day.
Tracy and I go back years.
Yes.
And this was made by our fantastic producer, Abby Smitten, as well. Look at that.
We have the original logo on a cake. Well done, Abby.
The original televisions.
Who's cutting it? Yeah, that's a good point.
No, we're not allowed a knife. They know us too well.
No knives on set.
We're just going to do it with hands. We're all going to just plough in. OK, thank you so much for joining us this morning. A special 40th anniversary edition of Breakfast.
Now it's time for Morning Live. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.